Here she goes. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. This is the 16th meeting of the year of the board for the Board of Directors on this Tuesday, September 15th. We'll begin with an invocation by Pastor Eric Capaci, and I'll lead the pledge. Please rise.
All right, let's bow for prayer. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for your abundant blessings on our life. God, it's an amazing thing to be alive today and to live in such a beautiful city, the city of Hot Springs. And Father, I thank you for these leaders in our city. I thank you, God, for the mayor and for these city board directors, God, that you have given us. You've blessed us with them, and we are very, very thankful. And today we pray, God, for wisdom. Wisdom as they govern our city and make decisions that, Lord, will benefit the citizens of our city. And I pray, God, that you'd give them that wisdom. I pray that you'd give them a measure of justice and righteousness and mercy as they make these decisions. Pray for their families. I pray for a hedge of protection about them and our city. I pray, God, that you would, God, give great strength to each of us as we live our lives for you on a daily basis. And God, I'm most of all grateful for your son, Jesus, who laid down his life for us. And God, again, I pray for this meeting, and God, that all would be done in a manner that would please you. And I pray these things in the strong name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Elaine Jones. Director Becca Clark.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Randy Foley.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. As in past meetings, we have a number of directors who are joining us remotely, but nonetheless are able to participate fully. Consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from consent to new business?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could we move item 3 to the first item of new business just for the amount and to allow it to be explained to the public?
Okay. Any objections to that? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move that to the first item of new business.
Thank you. I move approval with the agenda as it was changed.
Got a motion to approve as amended, seconded by Director Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Consider approval of the minutes of September 1, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. This time we have a number of guests to recognize. First, we'd invite Mr. Gary Trautman, President and CEO of Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Metro Partnership, for a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Appreciate the time tonight to give you a bi-monthly report. Since I last reported to you on July 7th, proud to tell you that we have quite a bit of activity going in our economic development projects. I believe you've seen a report dated September 30th, so assuming so, I'll just kind of hit some high points on the report. With regard to ACTI, there was a letter in your packet. I've got it just in time to send that before the end of the month from Senator Cotton, pledging his support to get the building and property moved from state ownership to federal ownership. I'll remind you that Clay Farrar has enlisted the help of Rachel Patton from Preserve, Arkansas. So that is really kind of our dig-in effort to try to save the building and property, and hope that's feasible. On workforce and workforce education, right after we met, or I reported to you last time, Cole is with me tonight. Cole McCaskill, our VP of Economic Development, and I'd also like to acknowledge our Chamber Chairman, Neil Harrington, and his wife are here for support. The mayor said he likes business folks in the audience, so we've got a few tonight. But we went to, Cole and Michelle and I went to the State Chamber, met with Rick Neal. Rick Neal is the Pea Ridge superintendent I've told you about several times, who is kind of the guru for the state for workforce education. And we're very excited, enthused, as you would expect someone of that capability to generate. Our heads were spinning, and we just had him here last Wednesday and Thursday, actually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But we were able to tour 4 of the 5 aerospace companies, Radius, Triumph, CMT, and I went blank there for a minute, and Cobalt, sorry. And we also met with Reynolds. We met with Hot Springs School District, toured their new facility, met with Hill and Cox, who's been responsible for so many of the wonderful projects we have, especially in education lately, and Garrett Construction, Betsy Garrett from Garrett. So our next step in that regard is to meet with the superintendents, which we intend to do in a couple weeks, and really take this discussion into the schools. We had to kind of put it on hold for a little bit. Obviously, the schools were first and rightfully so occupied with just merely getting to school and making that happen with COVID going on, but they've been very successful with that, and so we're gonna get back to where we are and talk about workforce. Some other things, we've sent an email to Senators Bozeman and Cotton and Congressman Westerman pledging our support for the city to receive relief funding. We met with the. Let me say this. I was elected the Secretary Treasurer of the Arkansas Economic Developers and Chamber Executives for 2021. The reason I bring that up is not to any other reason than let you know that I'd be in line for presidency, and that guarantees us the conference here in Hot Springs in 2024, which in turn allows us to bring several site consultants, several commercial realtors from out of town and out of state to Hot Springs. So I absolutely could not say no to that possibility. We had the Metro Partnership. Unfortunately, Franklin Bass, our past chair, just left. I'd like to thank him, but we had our Metro Partnership annual banquet via virtually. Again, COVID made sure of that, but winners were Oaklawn for their big expansion, Hill and Cox for all their projects they've done lately, Radius for the big expansion they had right at our announcement, $24 million, 96 new jobs right at Thanksgiving last year, Vince Signorelli, Tanner's for segueing from pickleball and baseball products to masks, Historic Preservation, the mayor and Ellen Hotel Hale for doing such a fine job converting the bathhouse into a hotel and restaurant, and Downtown Trailblazer Crystal Ridge Distillery. We spent a half day with the new chamber executive from the Village, John O'Brien, and I think he's going to be great to work with in partnership. Congressman Westerman was back a week later, visited with us. We shot a video about how well the businesses in Hot Springs have done addressing COVID, and then he in turn visited Tanner's and Crystal Ridge and commended them for their segueing. Tanner's on mask and Crystal Ridge for hand sanitizer. Had an exciting call that usually Steve Arison gets. Somehow it wound up to me, but I got a call from a movie producer that was interested in shooting a film here locally at Garvin Gardens. So we hooked them up with a hotel and caterer and Susan Harper's name at Garvin. So I think you'll be seeing an exciting movie in several months that was shot right here in Hot Springs. I passed it out 2 weeks ago at your last meeting. But we were very honored to be featured by Arkansas Business, an 8-page spread in there. It was really nice because Cole and Michelle and Mara got to write the content, as did Oakland. So stories were on manufacturing, industry expansions, local highway improvements, the city's incredible downtown growth, and Oakland expansion themselves. We continue. City Manager Burrow, County Judge Mahoney, Steve Arison, and I continue to meet monthly to all work better together. Our guest last month was Scott Smith. He's the new CEO at National Park Medical Center. I hope you've had the chance to meet him. If you haven't, he's a great addition to our community and just a good leader to have here in town. Our MSA group continues to meet along with our regional concept, Malvern, Hot Springs Village, and Arkadelphia. And Bill Burrow, Daryl Mahoney, Senator Sample, Representative Warren, Steve Arison, and I met a couple weeks ago about 2021 legislative issues. Certainly one near and dear to your all hearts is DF&A turnback funds, and to ours as well. Also, vocational training for two-year institutions. They've been on the same budget since 2003 for high school vocational training. Unacceptable. So we need to try to turn that around. We had the SEDC annual conference virtually, and I'm proud to tell you that Cole and Mara won a national award for community responsiveness for the Support Spa City website. So one of only 5 awards given at that particular conference. And then I've mentioned to you about Rick Neal, so that's where we're headed in the future. We're going to put a lot of emphasis on workforce education. That's how we can distance ourselves from other communities. We've got so many great things. We've got broadband now. We've got the quality of life that other communities envy. We've got projects. We've got notoriety, the Priceline.com selecting Hot Springs as the top emerging city in the country certainly didn't hurt our PR status. So did meet yesterday with Charles King, the new general manager at the Village. We talked about Leslie Nally and how we lament losing her, but Mr. King made a great impression. I think he's going to be a fine addition and partner for Hot Springs to work with. We're going to Ritter Communications, as a matter of fact, tomorrow to meet with them. I understand that they have now connected over 300 businesses since they've come to Hot Springs just last year. So we're hearing great stories almost daily about improved speed, lowered cost, and just grateful to have them as a partner. I'll conclude with a couple things. We're hosting partnering with Arkansas Center for Data Sciences, a lunch and learn on the 24th for IT apprenticeships here in Hot Springs. We have our One Voice Legislative Summit on October 21st, where we establish priorities for 2021 and our strategic plan, and we'll be holding our Business Expo on October 29th. Sorry for all the length of the report, but we just got a lot going on, and I appreciate the opportunity to come tell you about it. Be happy to try to answer any questions if I may.
Any questions of Mr. Troutman?
Mr. Mayor?
Garcia?
Yes, thank you. Gary, first I wanted to tell you I've been thinking about you and your mother, and just wanted you to know that. And as you know, COVID has hurt a lot of our small businesses. And I had a question that asked if they are allowed to pay out their membership dues to join the chamber. Do they have to pay it all at once, or can they pay it out?
Director Garcia, we established a payment plan back in, I believe, late March, if not early April, to help them through that situation. Certainly, we know here, especially in Hot Springs, our hotels and restaurants have been hit harder than most. We did find out from West Central Planning just yesterday that there's $500,000 in available loan money for businesses that are struggling and need it. So we'll be getting that information out later in the week. I'm proud to tell you no one wants to see any business go down, but we've only seen 2 businesses close since March 14th. So I really do mean it when I say I think Hot Springs has handled the COVID scare much better than other communities. And kudos to our small businesses for that.
That's great. And I wanted to pass along, I've heard from business owners along Central and South Hot Springs that are giving glowing reports on Ritter Communications and how well they are doing with their internet services. And I'd just be glad when that can be opened up to more in our community.
We'll work on it more tomorrow, but I appreciate the information. We'll certainly relay it to their president tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you, Gary.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate that. We have a number of proclamations to read today, and I would like to call Cindy Smith to the podium, and I'll read the proclamation for Constitution Week and then present the same to her. Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, 2020. John Percival Chapter. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule of law. And whereas September 17, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2020 as Constitution Week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on this 15th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2020. Our second proclamation, and I'd like to call on Sonia Buchanan to come to the podium. Proclamation, City of Hot Springs, regarding National Rehabilitation Week. Whereas CHI St. Vincent's Hot Springs Rehabilitation Hospital, partner of Encompass Health and National Rehabilitation Awareness Foundation, will observe National Rehabilitation Week, September 13th through the 19th, 2020. And whereas this year's theme is Discover the Possibilities, and we are celebrating the faces of triumph over all disability. And whereas our mission is to come together to educate individuals about the diverse benefits and impact of rehabilitation, increase opportunities for the people with disabilities, and assist individuals to live up to their fullest potential within their environment. And whereas many disabled people experience balance, mobility, cognitive, sensory, or perceptual challenges that impact their activities of daily living, thus allowing them to feel defeated in their ability to participate in family and community living. And whereas the health, attitude, productivity of individuals depend upon the effective use of the rehabilitation resources available to them, the physical, occupational, and speech programs available can improve strength, balance, posture, flexibility, endurance, swallowing, and cognition, along with speech function. These strides of improvement allow individuals to re-enter life with a renewed capacity for interaction with others and greater independence with activities of daily living. Now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the week of September 13th through 19th, 2020 as National Rehabilitation Week in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on the 15th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 2020. And Sonia, you're free to make a few comments if you so choose.
I think you summed it up beautifully. I'm glad to be here and be part of it. Thank you very much.
Our third and final proclamation is to Habitat for Humanity for their 25th anniversary. Could Cindy Wagstaff please come forward? And other representatives of Habitat if they're still here. Garland County Habitat for Humanity, 25th anniversary, whereas Garland County Habitat for Humanity celebrates their 25th anniversary. And whereas Garland County Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit ecumenical Christian housing ministry that has been constructing homes for deserving families since 1995 and is dedicated to the idea that everybody deserves to have to live in a decent, safe, and affordable home. And whereas Garland County Habitat for Humanity has become one of the most dynamic organizations in Garland County, earning this recognition through the efforts of its many volunteers and contributions of money, materials, and manpower. Over 25 years, the organization has built an average of 8 homes each year and has dedicated a total of 147 houses for families in Garland County. And now, therefore, I, Pat McKay, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs, do hereby proclaim September 18, 2020 as Garland County Habitat for Humanity Day. And witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be fixed on this 15th day of September in the year of our Lord 2020. Congratulations.
I want to thank you very much for this. Over 25 years, like it says, we have completed 147 houses. That translates to between 650 and 700 individuals that are essentially our workforce that have been put into decent, affordable houses, and they own these homes. And they own these homes at an affordable cost. So these families now have the ability to afford decent food, medical care, and other things because of all this. We also, and that in itself is very significant, but as an aside, it also is a tremendous benefit to the community because we take non-performing property and turn it into performing property, which is a tremendous benefit to our city. This would not be possible without with the entire community. The entire Hot Springs community has been involved. The city has been involved from the very beginning. We wouldn't be able to do what we do, and everybody from the Planning Commission to engineering, everybody has been fabulous in working with us. So we would not be able to do this without the help of the city, without the help of the residents, the volunteers, the businesses in the community. This really did. It took the whole city and the whole county really to make this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Bill Burrow for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I'm going to try to outdo my friend, Mr. Troutman, on the length. I've got several things to talk about tonight. We have a task force meeting, a COVID-19 task force meeting every Monday, and one of the things that came out of this particular virtual meeting yesterday is area school district superintendents shared the need that they have for additional substitute teachers and bus drivers. Thankfully, the positive case numbers have remained fairly low in our schools, but part of keeping the cases low are the quarantine guidelines, and that can make staffing very challenging. We've seen that here at the city as well and experienced some of that. But anyone interested in being a substitute teacher or a bus driver can contact their local school district to get information, but they could really use some help right now. I iterated on that same call how proud I was of our staff. You know, city services, whether it's a pandemic or whatever may be happening, we're an essential service, and our services must continue. And I can tell you on several occasions we've had to quarantine as many as 8 or 9 people out of some departments, and it really causes, including in our public safety. It really causes other employees to have to step up and assume that additional workload, whether that's through overtime or whatever it may be. They've done so without complaint. They understand the need, and our employees are committed to our mission and the fact that we're here to serve and to serve our residents and our visitors and those that enjoy our community. So I'm very proud of those individuals during those times, and I'm sure we'll see some again. We've got a lot of practices in place that would cut back on that, but as you know, it's not really the positive COVID that impacts us as much as the number of people that you have to quarantine when that happens. So very, very proud of our staff for stepping up and continuing operations. We've been able to manage through this to this point with no layoffs, no furloughs, without shutting down any of our services. We had an event that happened out at our utility billing that was very difficult to manage through, but they did so very well, and we weren't able to accept some payments there, but we got the online payments out. We got people spun up at home to take payments over the phone, and just really appreciate what they've done, and I know this board does too. I was very excited to update on 324 Malvern, which will be the Utility Billing Service Center, Finance, and our city attorney's new home. It really came out well. Staff is moving in this week, so Monday, September 21st, will be our first official day in the building with all services, hopefully working with no bugs. I'm sure we'll have a few minor things to work out as we get in there, but very pleased with the facility, and I've said this before. We could never build a facility like that for the investment that we have in it. And it has a lot of intangible things that come along with that as well. I'm going to love having our finance and our utility billing this close to us. It's very difficult to manage sometimes, even though we've gotten all pretty good at Zoom. But having our finance department across town has been very difficult on many occasions. So having them here very close to us is going to be great. It's definitely an improvement for the working environment of those employees who were really crowded into a facility there at our previous location. We've taken an old building on Malvern Avenue, part of our downtown gateway, that has been vacant for several years, and have been able to bring that back and repurpose that to a living building, a working building. Very proud of that standpoint. And as we vacate our current facility and we attach that to some of the other properties we own through the airport, we really have a very large parcel. It's probably one of the largest. It is the largest parcel on 70 West that's inside the city limits that we're able to market as part of our airport. We are hoping that we will be able to bring in a new employer that will bring additional jobs and high-paying jobs to the area when we're able to do that. But it's a piece of property that's very marketable, and we're looking forward to that. Hydrant flow testing with the fire department is going to gear up again on Monday as well. They'll be sending out some press releases on that information, but do want to make you aware that that's happening. We're going to try to do that instead of having crews working in different parts of town. We're going to focus on one specific area at a time and move through. We need to be able to test the fire hydrants for the proper flow to make sure that flow is there in case there is an emergency. It does come with some issues. When we release that kind of pressure in the line, the minerals sometimes break away from the inside. They're safe, but it sometimes discolors the water. Usually lasts for a few hours. If you experience that, please turn the faucet on. Just let it run a little while till it clears up. I would not recommend washing whites during that time. I've had a few phone calls on that, so I'll put a plug there. But that's going to happen starting Monday. And they're pretty quick when they start moving around town and opening those hydrants. CDBG updates. We've had several updates from the Community Development Block Grant program. We've completed sidewalks and ADA accessibility improvements on Park Avenue as well as Cedar and Arbor Streets. We have a new restroom, a drop-in-place restroom at Linden Park. A wonderful facility that's going to make that park's usage even better than what it is today. Bus shelters have been ordered for placement at the corner of Hobson and Lacey and at Ouachita Behavioral Health and Wellness. A bus shelter is also planned for intercity stop at Indiandale Shopping Center on Malvern Avenue. See a lot of people at that particular stop, and in inclement weather, it's tough. It's a tough area, tough place to be. So we want to make sure we get a bus shelter over there. They are a Cycle Community Call Care and Compliance Youth Landscape Certification and Lawn Care Program. This is a program for low to moderate income elderly and disabled residents. And when it's in full swing, they're able to call and make arrangements to have this group of youth under this program come and mow the lawn and help get their properties back into shape. You can email them at hotsprings4c@gmail.com. To get additional information, but that's been a great program. Those guys are really doing well in terms of taking care of our low to moderate and elderly disabled residents, but it's also teaching our youth how to give back to the community. So we're very proud of that program. 2020 census, I'll say this probably only one more time, but it's coming up to the end. September 30th is the last date for census. It's very important that everyone gets counted. The CDBG monies I just spoke about are directly impacted by our number of residents and our census. So is our state turnback. So is our federal grants on all levels. So it's very important that everyone gets counted. Hot Springs right now currently sits at a 58% response rate. That's down 3.7% from where we were 10 years ago, so we still have some work to do. I do know they're trying to get out and knock on doors for those that never responded, but it's very quick. I think it's 6 or 7 questions, and we'll get you counted. And this is important not only for the city of Hot Springs, but also Garland County. Third annual compost giveaway. We've got we're waiving the loading fees for compost, leaf mulch, wood grinding, overside materials. We've got an abundance at the compost facility. So if you're interested in that, you don't need to buy a ticket to have that loaded. Just show up at the facility and staff will help you in that regard. Have a few congratulations to pass out. This isn't really part of maybe my report, but do want to recognize that our Director Karen Garcia, at the Arkansas Municipal League's 86th Annual Virtual Convention held in August. Director Garcia was honored with the Adrian L. White Municipal Leadership Award. The Adrian L. White Municipal Leadership Award is presented to municipal officials who have served with distinction and dedication to their cities in the League's boards, councils, and committees for at least 6 years. So thank you for your service. One thing that came in just a few minutes before I came into the meeting, and I printed this out because I think it's wonderful to talk about what this man has done. The Walton Family Charitable Support Foundation Board granted $800,000 to the Don Monroe Building Community Endowment at the Arkansas Community Foundation. The grant honors Mr. Monroe's 30 years of service on the board of the ACF. In 1992, the Arkansas Community Foundation Board of Directors created the Don Monroe Building Community Endowment to be a lasting honorarium of his work championing community philanthropy. The endowment supports the foundation's work to build communities statewide, especially through their affiliate network. With their own grant-making power, affiliates have executive directors and local advisory boards to help understand the unique challenges and opportunities for their cities and towns. Mr. Monroe led Monroe & Company, a domestic shoe manufacturer located here in Hot Springs beginning in 1959. It is the largest shoe manufacturer in the U.S. Monroe founded the Hot Springs Giving Circle with Dorothy Morris, whom he met at the local philanthropy roundtable. Together, They helped establish the Hot Springs Cultural Alliance, which helped support the Hot Springs Arts Festival and Documentary Film Festival, among others. And both of these individuals have been wonderful for our community and all of the great events that they've helped support. And just when I saw that, I wanted to mention it tonight and congratulate Mr. Monroe and all the work that he and Ms. Morris have done. But that was great to see him recognized with that $800,000 gift to that endowment. So that's good. Then the last thing I have, Mayor, I want to go to the podium and call up Anthony Whittington. So Anthony has something that he'd like to present to the board. This is something that was earned at the Arkansas Recreation Parks Association last week. So Anthony, I'll let you do that honor.
Thank you, Bill. This award was a statewide award from the Arkansas Recreation Park Association Conference held in Fort Smith 2 weeks ago. It's a brand new park that we've got behind the police station at 511 Pleasant Street. This park went up against parks that have been around for ages. This park has been here less than a year. So at this time, I want to present Reverend James Donna Rice Park with the Facility of the Year Award for the Arkansas Recreation Park Association. So. This park is right in Director Jones's front door, and it was 99%, probably almost 100%, community development block grant funded. So that's a tremendous honor to get an award for a CDBG project, and it's got full court basketball, swing set, drinking fountain, benches, and covered picnic tables. So you see kids all the time in the Gateway community coming over and enjoying that park. So it's definitely a gem for that area of town. So.
And I'll just mention this started not too long ago, but it's been a while. It took us a while to get here, but Director Jones always wanted to see a park there because not so much that it was in her front yard, but it was because it was in the backyard of the police station. And it's a place where youth can come and have pickup games with our law enforcement officers and see them as something more than just red and blue lights. And it's very important to the community, and it's great. I'm so glad that you had us work on that, and I'm very pleased and appreciative of the board for allowing us to work on that and approving the things that we had to do to make it happen. Took a couple of years to kind of get it all together, but it's turned into a fabulous facility, and just wonderful that the Arkansas Parks and Recreation Association recognize that. So I know Anthony put that in, and congratulations to you as well. Yes. The next award is the Young Professional of the Year for 2020. This is to the City of Hot Springs Parks and Trails Director, Anthony Whittington. So he was selected as the Young Professional of the Year for 2020. Wow. Granted, yes. Anthony's always been an urban forester, and he just became our Parks and Trails Director in 2018 when Gene Wallace retired. So in 2 years, he's already been recognized as the Young Professional of the Year. They had another award that they won for the Tykes and Trikes. We've had 2 engineering awards for the Utility Service Center portion of the Greenway, and I will say that Gene Wallace had a tremendous effort in that as well, but so did Anthony, and the things they're doing in our Parks and Trails department is really grand, and just pleased to have Anthony with us. And no one deserves this more than you do for the work you've done over the past couple of years. So thank you very much.
Like I said, I just want to say thank you to the board for all your support with all of our projects. It's a tremendous honor to get this award. A lot of my colleagues were like, "Well, he's almost 40, so they might as well just give it to him," So, but it was a tremendous honor to get this award, and I'm very blessed to be working back in my hometown again. So, Thank you.
Thank you.
Give it a couple more decades, lose it there, and you'll appreciate
Exactly.
40.
They don't give one to the old professional of the year.
That completes your report.
Mayor, that completes my report for this evening.
All right, thank you. Board of Directors announcements of upcoming events. Any upcoming events? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the Hot Springs Minority Business Expo is scheduled for Saturday, September 26th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Farmers Market. And this is hosted by the Spa Area Independent Living Services. So they need the public support, maybe the chamber, and get some more chamber members there, as well as minority businesses. And you can contact the Spa Area Independent Living Services. And also the City of Hot Springs has several openings in our advisory committees and commissions. And the city's taking applications through October 2nd. So if you're interested, please submit an application. Openings are in the Arts Advisory Committee, the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, the Historic District Commission, Parks and Trails Advisory Committee, the Planning Commission, and the Urban Forestry Advisory Committee. And these are all citizen advisory committees, and we need the engagement of our cities in the city, the residents in our city in these advisory committees. So please consider what your interests are and to apply for one of these before October 2nd. The applications are online as well as in the city clerk's office.
Very good, thank you. Any other announcements of upcoming events?
I have some, Mayor.
Yes, Director Holliday.
First, I'm going to continue the Yay team for Anthony Whittington with an upcoming event. I mentioned at last meeting the Arts in the Park Festival is coming up September 25th through October 4th. And on Saturday, September 26th, a long-term project will be started at Linden Park. It's a collaboration between the Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance, Emergent Arts, and the City of Hot Springs. They're letting us use park space up there and providing some materials. We're doing a completely collaborative, interactive public art project where we're making a giant mandala sculpture on the ground using all natural materials. So we'll have materials there and instructions. Anyone, any age can come and participate, and it will be going on the entire festival. You can just go up there and see how it's going, and then add your creativity by adding sand and rocks. And I appreciate that when we had this crazy idea, Anthony Whittington jumped right on it and met me up at the park, and we're getting that moving. So I thought I'd start with that. And then, like I said, the festival is September 25th through October 4th, and you can find information on hotspringsarts.org. Also, next week, there's a couple of events coming up. I've been working with Director Jones, as well as the new Chief of Police, Chief Chris Chapman. We're going to do a couple of town hall meetings, specifically for District 1 and District 2 businesses and residents. The first one will be Monday, September 21st at 6:30. It will be at Watkins Park, which is 811 Park Avenue. That's in collaboration with the Park Avenue Community Association, and it is for anyone in District 1 that wants to come, but we're specifically going to be looking at what's going on in the neighborhoods north of downtown and downtown. The second one is the next night on Tuesday the 22nd at 5:30, and I don't have confirmation on our location, so that'll come out soon, so I apologize about that. But that is for anyone who lives in District 2, and then also the District 1 neighborhood south of downtown, since geographically those are so similar to District 2. So we're excited to get some face time with the new Chief of Police and have our residents be able to voice their concerns and ask questions of the Chief, and him to be able to share his vision for the community. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll address the items on the consent agenda, and these are items of a routine nature that do not require discussion, and therefore I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. 2 items on there.
So moved, Mayor.
Got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Our first item under new business was an item that was moved from the consent agenda to new business. It's Resolution R2129, and I'll ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-129, a resolution awarding a bid to Heron Construction Company, Inc. for the construction of tertiary filters at the Davidson Drive wastewater treatment plant. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by Director Jones. And Mr. Todd Pillar will provide the staff overview. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. We took bids on August 24th for our tertiary filter construction contract, and Heron Construction was a low bidder, and their bid was in the amount of $2,453,000. Just a side note, Heron is the same contractor from Tennessee that's going to build our Sanderson Bridge over Sanderson Dam. The funds for this project will come out of the CIP 2020 board approved budget, and the remainder will come out of the 2020 wastewater bond issue that was just recently approved by the board. This contract will put into place the 2 filters, which are supposed to be delivered. Well, I'm sorry, they're shipping October 1st. But they're pretty good size, so they might take a few weeks to get here, kind of like our switchgear project. But then it'll take 180 days to construct the project, and it should be done approximately mid-April next year.
Good. Any questions of Mr. Pillar?
Mayor?
Yes, Director Foley.
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, would you describe for the public what this project is really all about? I mean, I'm not sure anybody really relates to tertiary filters.
Yes, sir, Director Foley. If you recall, I brought to the board a resolution to buy 1 filter earlier this year, and that filter was to take the secondary effluent, or the water that comes off our secondary clarifiers, and treat it before it goes to our UV system. But since that time, I've brought to the board a resolution for a second filter because we have our rapid sand filters existing at the Davidson wastewater plant that are failing. So we're going to purchase 2 filters, and this contract installs both those filters. But the real reason for the filters is, as you can imagine, we've had really high flow rain events this year. February, May, and I think just in August we had like 2 inches of rain in a couple hours. These events allow our hydraulic capacity of the wastewater plant to treat only so many million gallons. And that capacity is about 20. And during those rain events, if you read today's paper, sometimes it gets up to 70 million gallons a day. So we have to divert water into our equalization basin until we can pull it out of the equalization basin back into the plant. But the nice thing is the solution to pollution is dilution. So during rainwater events, there's not that much bacteria, there's not that much things that have to be taken out of the wastewater. So we can bring water back into the wastewater plant and go by some of the processes that require the bacteria to remove the TSS and the BOD and things like that we have to remove to meet our effluent permits. And we can send those straight to the filters and screen it, basically, take the particles out to protect our UV, which is our disinfection system, that then sends it down to Lake Catherine. So they're really serving a dual purpose. During normal day operations, they'll screen solids from the secondary clarifiers and protect our UV system. But during high water events, we'll be able to treat 48 million gallons a day, which is the same capacity as our current UV system to discharge, which will help us with our storage, because as these high flow events come into the plant, we have to divert it into EQ, and they usually don't happen like we have a rain on Monday and then it's dry for 7 days. All of a sudden it rains on Monday, and then we got 2 more inches of rain on Wednesday. The plant can't keep up. So these filters are a very integral part of that. And the master plan that Christ Engineers is working on a professional work order number 2, which the board is also approved, that is going to modify the yard piping to get hydraulically through the plant what we need to meet our discharge permits. And we decided to go to the larger piping because that's what Christ Engineers says we've designed for our hydraulic plan in the future. So this contract will be, it'll take a little bit out of the $12.4 million that's in the Christ construction contract for all the improvements we have to do at the wastewater treatment plant as part of the yard piping.
Mayor,
Thank you.
I don't know if
Mayor, just want to add something there. Not as technical, but I think it's important to realize that we have done a tremendous amount of work on our force mains and our gravity sewer, and now we're holding that water and it's making it down to the plant. We have a plant that was built in the 70s, almost 50 years ago, for a population at that time, and we have exceeded that. We're running a 1970 plant with 2020 population. These improvements will basically help us on days where we have that high inflow to blend that as it comes through the plant system, hit the tertiary filters to remove the solids, and then go through the UV for disinfectant before we discharge into Upper Lake Catherine. That plant is currently rated, or was currently built for 12 million gallons a day. We've got that through an easement with Energy. I think we're up now with 16 million gallons a day.
That's correct.
We know that we're not going to have a lot of opportunity to be able to go back and either refinance a bond or add to a bond. This work that we're doing, we were able to do so with these low interest rates and finance that bond for about 17 million in construction funds without having to have a rate increase on the ratepayer. As we're doing that, and we noticed that we had that 36-inch pipe, with Christ and Todd and Gary Carnahan, our engineers, when we looked at that, we know we're not going to be able to come back in 10 years and try to do this again. So instead, we're upsizing that 54 that will meet the type of discharge, that 48 MGD that we hope to obtain, because we already have the filter systems in, or we'll have the filter systems in. We already have the UV in. So this is going to bring this plant up to what it needs to be, not only for 2020, but for the future. And that's foresight that I think is very wise on not only our consultant, but also our staff, but to not be as technical, because I'm not.
It's okay.
That's
okay, Bill.
basically what we're doing. We're bringing that plan into 2020 and beyond to accommodate all of the flow that we've received from the work we've done on the force mains. We get this particular project completed and a little bit more work on Gulfa, and we'll be released from the consent administrative order. And I'll mention just a bit about that. We've actually requested that they extend that consent administrative order while we do this work. It protects us from any fines, but it also holds us accountable that we're going to get this job done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
both
that.
of you.
Thanks, Bill.
Mayor, I think that the minutes need to reflect that it was Director Foley that asked for clarification on that issue. So that was.
I think everybody gets an associate degree in wastewater management after tonight.
Sorry about that.
Any further questions?
This is the way I am.
I'm afraid to ask if there's any further questions. Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I know this was on the consent agenda, so nobody had an opportunity to sign up to speak to it, but is there any member of the public who wants to rebut what Mr. Pillar just said regarding the technical components of the treatment plant? Hearing none, any discussion amongst directors? Call the roll, please.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. And the resolution is adopted. We have 9 resolutions regarding condemnations, and our Chief Building Official, Mike Scott, will review each and every one of those with us. The first one is consider Resolution R2130. I ask the City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-130, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 100 Dandy Alley. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Jones. And Mr. Mike Scott will provide the staff overview.
Thank you very much. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolition and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 100 Dandy Alley, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighted in the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Any questions of Mr. Scott? Thank you. Do we have anybody from the audience sign up to speak to this matter?
Mayor, if I may, is there anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R20-130, condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 100 Dandy Alley? 100 Dandy Alley. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R2131 and ask the City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-131, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 248 Hobson Avenue. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. Again, Mike Scott will provide the overview.
Very much. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-structure residential structure at 248 Hobson, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Very good. Thank you. And any questions of Mr. Scott? Hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R2131, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 248 Hobson Avenue? 248 Hobson Avenue. There's none, Mayor.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R2132 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-132, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 407 Mississippi. That concludes your reading, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. Again, Mr. Scott for the review.
The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single structure at 407 Mississippi, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no other reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Scott? Anyone in the audience would like to speak on this resolution? Please come forward and state your name and your address, please.
My name is Shanda Robinson. I live at 6856 Northwest 16th Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That property is the property of my mother, who is deceased, and my brothers who are living there who are now incarcerated. And I've been paying the taxes, and somehow they failed to send me the notification of this hearing. So my brother sent it to me from jail. That's disheartening because they can send me notices when the grass needs to be cut, but they couldn't notify me about this hearing. And so I need to know, is there anything that I can do to save this property? And if so, what is my time limit?
Yeah, ma'am, if the board were to take action tonight to condemn the property, you would have 30 days to work out a plan with Mr. Scott, the chief building official for the city of Hot Springs, and if he sees progress that would indicate that this property was going to be turned around, then it would be his discretion whether to proceed or not. But typically, we're looking at a building permit and follow through. City Attorney, can you add to that?
That's accurate, Mayor. No solicitation of bids for demolition will go out for 30 days, so you have that length of time in order to decide what, if anything, you can do to try to save this structure.
I appreciate it.
But we'll take action tonight, and if it's in the affirmative to condemn, your next visit needs to be with Mr. Mike Scott right there.
I would encourage you to stay until after the meeting so you can get Mr. Scott's contact information.
I've been in contact with her. I actually emailed her 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I sent her some pictures. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please speak into the mic so those at home and the city board.
We've been emailing back and forth a couple of times. I sent her some pictures of the property because she wasn't aware of the current condition of it. And so I sent her those, and I did tell her what steps she needed to do to move forward, even though I was moving forward with this, that if she wanted to work on it, of course we would work on her, because if we can save some city money by somebody else working on it, be glad to. But that was about 3 weeks ago, and, I've not seen any action at all since then.
Okay. Well, as the city attorney indicated, the bid for condemnation won't go out for 30 days, so you really need to move quickly and work with Mr. Scott and demonstrate, some advancement to stabilizing the facility and improving it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor?
We actually did attorney ad litem on this here, and so, because her mother is deceased, so I guess the attorney ad litem
Mr. Mayor?
to her brother located him.
Yes, Director Foley?
Would somebody check the mic at the podium there? I did not hear the lady at all, and I hear Mike Scott faintly.
I'm pretty loud anyway, but this doesn't sound like it's working.
Yeah, well, they were a few feet away during that most recent little conversation, so we're trying to remind people to come forward and speak directly into the mic. So, thank you.
Is it working, Mike?
It doesn't sound like it, Mr. Foley.
Okay.
There's a little bit there.
Can somebody summarize for me what the lady said, please? I don't know about the rest of the directors, whether they heard anything or not.
Yeah.
No, they weren't speaking into the mic. I sent a text to Sheila and told her I couldn't hear, but everyone needs to speak into the mic as the mayor stated.
Well, she indicated that she had not received notice directly, but from a family member. Mr. Scott did indicate that he had several email exchanges over the last couple of weeks. The structure has been in the family quite some time. It was her mother's structure, and she'd certainly like an opportunity to save the structure. We indicated that no solicitation for a company to remove the structure would be made for 30 days. And during that time, she could work with Mr. Scott on a plan to rehab the structure, stabilize it, get a building permit, and show some evidence of follow through. And
thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Foley, I'd also add to that the record title holder for 407 Mississippi is deceased. There has not been an estate established for the disposition of that property. And so therefore an attorney ad litem was engaged in order to try to locate the heirs. They were unable to locate the heirs directly, so there was a warning order that was published in the newspaper, first on July 31st of this year, second publication August 7 of this year. That's how the brother received the notification of the condemnation proceedings, notified the sister, Mrs. Robinson, who appeared this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we heard from an individual. Is there anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak on this matter? Hearing none, any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2133 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-133, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 355 Holly Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Foley.
Second.
Did Director Foley look like he melted? So Mike Scott will provide the staff report.
Okay, the City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single structure, residential structure at 355 Holly, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Very good. Any questions to Mr. Scott from the board? I'm sorry. Yeah. Any question, Mr. Scott?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Director.
You may not have the answer to this, but I did make a note when I was driving around. The houses on either side seem to be in the same, if not worse, condition. Are those also, I'm assuming, on your radar since you guys have been over there?
Yes. Just according to the rules, we can only tear down one house in a block per year. We could tear down more, but it will be very expensive for us because we would have to do some more legal work and abatement and everything. As a city, we'd have to do it. And so it becomes very expensive. So what we do is when we have houses like that, we've had them on our radar for a long time, and we pick the worst one. And we definitely pick the ones that are vacant over the ones that are people are living in. And so that's why we probably chose this one. This one is not lived in, and it is in the worst condition in that area. So.
Okay. Yeah, I would hate to see 3 houses in a row come down, but I just noticed that was kind of glaring at this particular location.
Yeah. On Mississippi's similar situation. We just had to pick one and go from there. So.
Any further questions of Mr. Scott from the board? Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R2133, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 355 Holly? 355 Holly. There's none, Mayor.
Very good. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Now we'll move on to Resolution R2134 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-134, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 302 Highland Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Jones. Mr. Scott will provide the overview.
The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single residential structure at 302 Highland, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability and or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Scott? Thank you.
Mayor, we do have someone in the audience. Attorney Josh Drake is the personal representative of the estate, record title holder of this property.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. As he said, I'm Josh Drake. I am the personal representative. I happen to be an attorney, but I'm the personal representative for this estate, which was open to liquidate a number of properties in town which need to be liquidated. I would state to the board that I have 3 different people making offers to purchase this property. It's adjacent to Oaklawn. Oaklawn is one of them. They made the higher offer, but because their offer didn't comply with what the court needs, we've had to go back to them and ask them to fix their offer. This is part of an estate. We're in the process of liquidating all the parcels in this estate, including this one. And like I say, if you will give us some time on this, within the next 30 days, one of these offers will be accepted. Is the one that's for the most money. The court, anytime you sell a property in an estate, it has to have court approval. And so we have offers, but we haven't got any of them with court approval yet. And the judge has made it clear he's going to accept the highest offer that's proper. And so that's what we're establishing right now. Should be hearing in the morning whether or not Oaklawn was going to fix their offer. But like I say, you can tell from the location, it's in Oaklawn. It's a perfect location for an Airbnb, and I think that's why there's so many people interested in it. And so we will be taking care of this in the sense of it will get sold to someone who wants to do something with the property. Obviously, it's vacant now, and it's part of the estate, and the estate doesn't have the money to fix it. You see the extensive repairs it needs, but someone who's looking to make some money, I'm sure will be making money on this property shortly. And so for that reason, we're asking that the board to hold off on condemnation and give us 30 days, and we'll come back, and I expect by then we'll have court approval of a new owner, and they can get with the city about what their plans are. And again, it may be Oaklawn.
Mr. Drake, I understand that Stacy Farnell is also working on this estate as the attorney of record, and,
right.
and I sympathize with your situation. The board's decision is whether or not to let this go and it sell, and then have to start the ball all over again if the new owner doesn't rehab the property.
Well, there'd be no reason to buy that, dilapidated property if you weren't planning on doing something to make money on it.
Oh, I don't disagree, but there are a lot of people in California buying stuff on the internet that have never seen it before. So we've been down this road before.
Well, these are three local owners who are all motivated to try to make some money on this because of its location.
Understood. I think you heard what we told Mrs. Robinson earlier, that solicitation for bids won't even go out for 30 days. So if you in fact get a legitimate offer and acceptance that the court can approve within that 30-day period, I'm sure Mr. Scott's going to work with you. This has been quite the process, as with all of these, especially the ones with the attorney at Lightums, and to forego action this evening just makes us start all over again with the taxpayers' money going forward. So my recommendation to the board is for them to take whatever action they're going to do tonight, not postpone this, and then you have that 30 days that you need to get the court's approval on your offer. If you've got that, I'm sure Mr. Scott's going to work with you.
Right, but it also makes it more difficult to get a good offer and sell a property if it has been condemned by the city. And so I'm just saying, if you can give me 30 days to get the court approval, you'll see that there's a new buyer who's stepping in and will be, like I say, fixing this problem, and you won't have to deal with it.
The notice has already been published? The notice of intent's already been published?
Can I ask a question of Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir, Mr. Foley.
Mike, how long have you been working on this property?
On this one here, since 2017, we've been working on this one, so now for 3 years. Also, there are several other properties in this same trust in this same condition. So we've been trying to get them to do something with them. And as always, it's the promise of, we've got a buyer, we're going to sell it, So we finally just chose one of the worst ones and decided we'd move forward because we're not getting anywhere with these houses. I don't know how many, it's 18?
No, it's
oh gosh.
9.
Okay.
9. It's 9.
Thank you.
It's 9 houses that are just vacant and stuck. And so we've got to move forward and try to clean these places up. So.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, I had a question for Mike also.
Yes, ma'am.
If they have an offer and they're moving forward to get their judge approval before the 30 days, then can you work with them to get that sold before any demolition?
Absolutely. And if we move forward and we tear it down, the money we spend will be a lien against the property. And honestly, the property's all they're after. It's not the house. The house is not worth it.
Right. They're going to
So
demolish.
we'll tear it down and we'll have a lien on it. So we've done something that they were going to have to do anyway. And they can just pay us to do it and we get it cleaned up. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that work, Josh?
Well, I would state for the record that the attorney for the estate, Mr. Farnell, filed a petition today to have the properties auctioned. Not this one because we have the offers on it, but the other ones that you're concerned about, the petition was filed today to have them auctioned by the court, and so those will be going to people that that want to do something with them, and then the city can, I'm sure go after any of them that aren't being fixed up after that. This estate sat open for a number of years because the owner died, and there was no one to open the estate. And so Mr. Farnell opened the estate on behalf of some of my clients who are the creditors who are owed some money by the gentleman. And so some of these got run down before the estate got opened. Because when the gentleman died, there was no one that bothered to open the estate, and so that's kind of how they got in this condition. But like I say, if this one is one of the easy ones because it is next to Oaklawn and everybody wants it, and so if you can just give us 30 days, I can prove it, and the court I'm sure will approve it between now and then, and you can move on to the ones that need it more. If you can only do one, I don't know if there's others in that area. That's not the best area. There may be others that you want to use the condemnation procedure on rather than this one. But anyway, that's my thoughts.
Mr. Drake, when was that estate opened?
I don't have that with me right now.
I'm assuming it's a year ago at least.
Oh yes, at least it's been a while that the estate's been open.
Good. Anyone else who's here to speak on this matter? Any discussion amongst directors?
Well, I understand that Mike's going to work with them on this specific property. So if all of this comes about in this 30 days, or if it might be a few days more, if they've got nearly everything done, Mike's going to work with them. And if we go ahead with the condemnation, there won't be a lien against it until additional lien. It sounds like there's already some liens from other creditors, but we won't file the lien additional liens until we incur additional cost. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, ma'am. We do have city liens on the property because we've been keeping it mowed.
Yeah, so there's already some liens.
Right, yeah, and in all honesty, it's about 45 days before we tear one down. We have to wait 30 days, and then Mary has to do her posting in the paper, and then, that may be the fourth house on this contractor's list. So I can always tell the contractor who gets this bid, he may get 4 or 5 others. I can say, make this one the last one you tear down. And I've done that before when we run into issues like this. Because it's a last resort for me to spend the city's money. I can honestly tell you, it's my money. I live right down the road. So it's a last resort for me to spend our money. So.
Thank you. Josh, that sounds reasonable, doesn't it? I think that would work.
Well, again, I was saying if you can hold off on the condemnation, then it's going to be easier for me to get it sold, to get the buyers, and get the court to approve it. And so that's what I was asking for the time for, is to hold off on that to let me get the court approval.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I appreciate Mr. Scott's cooperation with Mr. Drake. However, if it passes to the affirmative, I want to make sure that the owner understands that the burden of getting it done is his and not Mike's. So we set out on a process, and he goes and gets bids for the destruction. I want to make sure that he is able to work freely within the time frame that he normally works in, and that the owner has to do what they need to do before that 30 days in order to avoid the condemnation or the destruction of the building.
That's been the normal process, so agreed. So, any further comments from directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2135 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-135, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 1023 Mineral Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Jones. And like Mr. Scott will provide the overview.
Thank you. City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolition and clearing a vacant single-family structure at 1023 Mineral Street, Hot Springs, Garland County. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
You got any questions of Mr. Scott from the board? Director.
I noticed in that one has asbestos siding on
It's actually concrete.
it. Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting house, but it's fallen in now, as you can see. But it was one of those houses that had that rock kind of stamped on it, is what it was, yeah.
Any further questions of Mr. Scott?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R20-135 condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 1023 Mineral Street? 1023 Mineral Street. There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Aye. Clark. Aye. Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2136 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-136, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 142 Greenwood Avenue. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Clark, seconded by Director Jones. Mr. Scott will provide the overview.
Thank you very much. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 142 Greenwood, Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration and the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Scott from the board?
Mr. Drake is here for this one as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I was sent notice about this one because it was previously owned by the estate that I, the personal representative for, but back in November of 2016, Bo Durbin bought this at some sort of foreclosures or some sort of sale, and there's a certificate of sale from November 1st of 2016 that Bo Durbin bought this on behalf of his client, Joe Hall. And so I'm not sure why I've been receiving the notices on this because it's not part of the estate anymore.
What was the date of the sale?
It was filed November 1st of 2016.
Did you have a limited title search done on this one? Mike?
Yes, yeah, and then we gave attorney ad litem. This one, we also went attorney ad litem on this.
Mr. Hall is a creditor in the estate I'm involved with, and Mr. Carl Crow's office does represent him. And so if they had looked about that, I think they would have seen that Mr. Hall is involved in that estate. And I don't represent him, and I'm not involved in it, but he is a creditor asking for money from that estate, and Carl Crow's office represents him. And that's how they actually got this. It was sheriff's sale, and so the certificate of sale is from Fred Hawthorne. It was a sheriff's sale that happened back in 2016, and so I just wanted to let everyone know that this was not mine. It's not my fault, and so.
So you have no objection to the condemnation?
No, I do not. But I did want you to know that you may not have any notice to the proper person.
Yeah, this was also an attorney at Latham was engaged. Notice was published 2 separate times. No responses to that notification.
Very good. Any discussion amongst board members? Please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark. Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R2137. Ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-137, resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 512 Gaines Avenue. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt. We got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by Director Weatherford. Mr. Scott will provide the staff report.
Thank you. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 512 Gaines Street, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Garland County. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Scott from the board?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R20-137 condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 512 Gaines Avenue?
Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Tommy Woodfork, 211 Blake Street. Tommy Woodfork, 211 Blake Street.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
Yes, I'm aware of the problems with this house here. And previously, a week before, I received the letter in the mail for it's going to be coming up for. Thank you, sir. There's be coming up for a condemnation. I got a letter stating that I need to board the house up, and then I'm not understanding how come a week later I get this here stating that I need to that it's going to be condemned. But I'd like to rehab the house and get it repaired because it's kind of like a landmark for our neighborhood for the kids that grew up.
Well, as you've heard throughout the evening, any action we take today, there would be no demolition permit executed for at least 30 days, and in fact, a couple weeks after that. So is this something that you could make progress on? If you can, I would certainly contact Mr. Scott and outline to him what your timetable is and see if that works. But these homes didn't get this way in 30 days. They've been that way for some time. So
yes, sir, I understand.
Are you the owner?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
yes.
I talked to him and he's in my district. The house is too, and I explained to him about the 30 days and about talking to Mr. Scott, so he knows all that.
Very good. Thank you. Is this something you can work towards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution adopted. Our last action item of the evening is to consider Resolution R2138 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-138, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 221 Indiana Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. Mr. Scott.
Thank you. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 221 Indiana, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Garland County. The structure is blighting the neighborhood and poses a public health and safety risk. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural and foundation damage. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no other alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Scott?
Anyone here to speak in opposition of Resolution R20-138, condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 221 Indiana Street? 221 Indiana Street. Sorry, I was going to throw a Arkansas Code annotated in there on you. Sorry about that.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. That completes the action items of the evening. And
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Scott, you can take a throat lozenge. Our final agenda item is Board of Directors items for discussion. Do any directors have an item for discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to publicly thank you for your daily updates. You may not do it in your capacity as mayor, but it is vital information to the residents of Hot Springs that they appreciate it, and I've heard good things, feedback about it. And I thank you and the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Hot Springs Sentinel Record, as well as the City of Hot Springs information systems, and keeping the COVID information forefront and communicated to the public, as well as the opportunities that arose for small businesses for the loans. A lot of people weren't aware of that, and the small business forgivable loans, as well as the state's loans for protection for COVID. And you don't have to do that, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Director Jones, you had a comment.
Oh, your ears.
Not your final word.
I'm just saying tonight, and I'll probably say it next meeting, we have about 47 days left to vote. I want everybody to go to the poll so they won't miss out, or they won't come to me and say, if I had. I want you to be able to say, well, I did vote. I didn't get who I wanted, but I voted. So I want everybody to vote. Vote your conscience.
Very good.
man.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you. Anyone else have an item for discussion? I'll just have a closing comment. On my way home from work last night, I generally have a choice to make whether I go out Airport Road or Albert Pike, and because the light was green at the corner there in front of Walgreens, I went Albert Pike, and all of a sudden I saw this whole line of cars in the left lane coming to a standstill. I said, well, there's an accident way up there and it's all backed up. I'll just get on the bypass. So I got on the right lane and kept moving, and it was clear as could be. And all of a sudden there was a group of people in the lane. And I came up on a I think it was just a one motorcycle accident there, and some good Samaritans were, there to, kind of help the gentleman not move, and the fire department, came immediately. Police department arrived and took control of the traffic and positioned vehicles so that, because there was a motorcycle another 75 yards down the street in the opposite in the eastbound lane,
and then the LifeNet came with both a truck and a supervisory vehicle, and they worked very, very well together, and basically it was kind of like a seamless operation there between the three agencies, public service agencies. So it was very nice to see them working, and everybody did what they were supposed to do. Traffic started moving right away, and once the police got on scene and had kind of a corridor set up to where vehicles could move only one direction at a time. You know, they would alternate the direction of the vehicles, but, you know, traffic really wasn't backed up for very long. But, of course, the primary goal was to stabilize the injured motorcycle rider. And then also the others were you know, removing the motorcycle from the other lane of traffic. So I commend all those agencies working together, and it's nice to know that we have them at the ready. So thank you.
Good thing you went that way.
I didn't all, I mean, I was there wasn't a lot I could do to help them. They had it all under control, so thank you. Any other comments?
It's just nice to have somebody here that can rib you, during the meeting. She can't, she can't do that via Zoom as well.
Yeah, she's more than 6 feet away. I can't get to her. All right, any further comments? Director Jones, you have a comment?
I'm here in the flesh tonight, Mayor. I'm glad to be back. I really am. I probably won't come next month. But anyway, I move that we adjourn this meeting for tonight.
We got a motion. Need a second? Nobody wants to go. Director Weatherford. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.